Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 21 of My Little Pony Make Your Mark. So yeah, we are here with the final chapter of, at least for now, Make Your Mark. It's very, very unclear if this is actually the end of the series for multiple reasons. Um, there's a big continuation with Tell Your Tale in the next year. And I'm thinking, while there's no confirmed Make Your Mark next year, I'm thinking maybe in the year after 2025, we're probably going to get more from G5. And I don't mean more Tell Your Tale. I mean, we're probably going to get more of, like, this. Um, they're just taking a year off. Um, or hell, it might even surprise us and it might still come by the end of 2024. But it might go under a different name and whatnot. Um, because technically, at least some of this final chapter is also going under the name The Secrets of Starlight. So, yeah, it's kind of unclear at the moment. I haven't actually heard any official confirmation that this is the end. The only thing I've heard is that this is all that has been recorded, which does not mean anything. Um, but if this is the end, I hope that we have a satisfying conclusion, considering we have 3 episodes and a special left. Um, I guess we're going to have to see. But this should time out perfectly for what I want to do, considering we're doing 1 episode today. And once we come back after after the new year, we should be able to time it well with what I want to replace this with. But not going to get into that here, don't need to. Um, so, last we left off, let me see if I can remember. Misty had, with everything that had been going on with the tree and the breezies and everything, they ended up finding and traveling to the Dragonlands, but couldn't find any dragons. And Misty had used her necklace to travel there in the first place, um, basically sacrificing her own desires for the sake of someone else, which, awesome move. Um, but yeah, she used her necklace to help with her friends instead. And now they're just kind of trying to figure everything out. Opaline, we know, is making plans using the trees to take over Equestria and everything. And yeah, again, we only have 3 episodes to close this out. So, plus the special. But I think the special is kind of its own thing. But I mean, I don't know for sure, I guess. We'll see. Um, I don't know too much about this final chapter. I know 2 things. One of them is more basic, the other one is a little more detailed. And I'll get to those when they show up in the episodes and specials. I'm not going to spoil you here on that. But I'm excited to see this, and I'm glad we got back to this before the end of the year. I'm glad I found the time to do so. So, that being said, we're just going to check this out and hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked it up, and Spike's voice actor here is Martin Roach, who has been in a few things I know of, and even a few things I know, but nothing I would, really know him for. it's not like this massive name that I would recognize or anything. And that's obviously nothing against him at all. He did a great job, I think. Though I can see some people maybe not liking that deeper voice for Spike, but considering he's like, centuries older, it kind of makes sense that his voice would deepen. I mean, let's be honest. Spike's voice at the beginning of Friendship is Magic and at the end of Friendship is Magic were very different in and of themselves. And that's not even including the epilogue that we saw where Spike was older. Because his voice was more than likely pretty different at that point. We never got a chance to hear it, though. It never let us hear it, really. Now, the thing is, they had been in Spike had been in hibernation for centuries. And the hibernation started, I guess, with Twilight Sparkle, because she had brought in she had, like, in order to stop Opaline, had set up everything to separate all of the magic and all, and had Spike and the dragons go into magical hibernation via a spell for centuries. Now, it never explains exactly how many centuries. It just says centuries. It could be 2 centuries. It could be 10 centuries. I guess, yeah, technically, yeah. Though that would be 1,000 years at that point. It could be pretty much any number of centuries. We have no idea. And honestly, we don't know how long Twilight was reigning before then. We genuinely don't know. Twilight could have been reigning for a long time before that even happened. So we have to take that into account as well. Now, we also found out in this episode that there was an alicorn land, that apparently alicorns were a natural race. Which is interesting because that was always kind of a point of contention in Friendship is Magic, because we know that Twilight and Cadence were both turned. Cadence was originally a Pegasus and Twilight was originally a unicorn. Both of them were alicorns who were turned. Flurry Heart, as we know, is a natural-born alicorn. And Celestia and Luna were never quite clear. It was never quite clear if they were turned at some point in the past or are natural. Now we're learning that they are natural and everything because we saw them as kids and all in Opaline's flashbacks before. And I assume they're also from this alicorn land that Opaline is from. So that's really interesting in and of itself, that there's an entire land of alicorns. That's fascinating. I forgot what it was called, by the way. That's why I haven't been referring to it as anything other than the alicorn land. But that adds an interesting twist into things. Meanwhile, we have a lot of callbacks to G4 in this one. And yes, G5 has been legitimately a sequel series to G4. Make Your Mark is 100% a sequel to Friendship is Magic. We've known this. This isn't a surprise or anything. There's been a lot of references to G4 throughout G5 so far. But it's still really great and emotional to see it, Like, not only just seeing Spike, but hearing him talk about Twilight and everything and his friends and all the good times he had. It's emotional. It is. It got me teary-eyed. I really wish I hadn't been spoiled on it, though. I mentioned there were 2 things I knew about this chapter, and that was one of them. I'll talk about the other when we get to that. But, yeah, Because the thing is, even before the chapter was released, when they had, like, trailers and promo stuff coming out, everybody was just all willy-nilly sharing around the fact that Spike was in this. They were sharing around a single screenshot of him and talking about how, oh, he's back, he looks different and everything. And once the trailer came out, they're like, oh, he sounds different, he has a different voice. And it's like, everybody's talking about it, sharing their opinions. And of course, I avoided mostly anything that had, like, anything else in terms of spoilers. But at the same time, I just was not able to avoid being spoiled by that, because it was just literally everywhere. It was on every single bit of social media. It was on Facebook, it was on Twitter, it was on TikTok, it was everywhere. I couldn't avoid it. And again, I didn't, like, hear all kinds of details about, like, the plot and everything. All of that was new to me. But unquestionably, I knew Spike was in this because of that. And it sucks, because if I hadn't known that, if I had gone into this not knowing Spike was going to be part of this, that would have been such an amazing surprise. That would have been so cool. But instead, I went into this already knowing that was going to be a thing. And again, I still loved it anyways. It was still well executed. And I, again, didn't know the context behind everything, but still. It just kind of sucks, that people don't tag spoiler posts, and you'll just get spoiled on everything because people don't give a shit. People need to realize that not everybody watches trailers, that not everybody looks at all of the pre-release information, because some people don't want to be spoiled. This is something I really actively would have rather not known. But again, nothing I can do about it. I mean, it just really, really sucks. Now, this was really a good episode, but I'm not going to lie, this seems rushed. And I don't know if there's a reason for it. I don't know if, like, there's a specific cause for it feeling like this. But it just feels like they started to set up at the end of the last chapter. It feels like they started to set up going into the final act of this, at least, arc, you could say. But then all of a sudden, in the first episode of this, it's like, oh, we're just going for it. We're just rushing into the final act of the arc without actually, like, pacing it out at all, without building things up. It's just like, just go, go, go. It's just like, you go from this moment of, like, oh, we're setting things up to start moving into that direction, to all of a sudden, we're already just fucking here. It's like no real setup. We're just automatically at the Dragonlands. Just automatically meeting Spike. Automatically, Opaline has captured 2 of the dragons. No build up to that at all. She's stolen a shit ton of cutie marks. No build up to that at all. It's rushing into it. And that's my only complaint here. It feels like they're rushing into this finale. Again, there's only 3 episodes in this chapter. And a special. But the special, again, from what I know of it, I think is supposed to be its own separate thing. Which means there's only 3 episodes of the actual main finale series. And it just feels like it's really just rushing into it, instead of actually giving it, like, a lot of build-up and proper, pacing in terms of getting all this set up. And mind you, with Friendship is Magic, like, you have a 2-part finale that oftentimes would be like, oh, we're going to introduce the big bad at the start of this finale with very little build-up or anything prior to that. It's like, yeah. Like, occasionally there would be something previously in the season that would hint at what was to come in the finale. But for the most part, the finales were introduced and, fully gone through within the course of 2 episodes. So it's not like new necessarily, but it's just like really sudden for this series. Because this series, unlike unlike Friendship is Magic, has been a little more connected. Like, yeah, there's still an episodic nature to a lot of the, well, episodes. A lot of them are still their own thing. But they've been pushing forward this story as well, this serialized story, and especially lately. Like, the last couple chapters have been a lot more serialized. And because of that, the fact that this is just suddenly burst into with the finale, it feels like it didn't have enough build up to it. And again, the episode was still great. It was still really good. I really enjoyed it. I'm not, like, the complaint isn't with, like, the episode as a whole. It's just that one aspect of it. I feel like maybe having 2 more episodes in between the end of the last chapter and the start of this one. Like, if this episode had, if this chapter had 2 more episodes before this one that were just setting up for them going to the Dragonlands and preparing for the finale and showing, like, Opaline really starting to, enact her plan, that would be so much better. Just 2 more episodes. You don't need more than that. Hell, even just one, at the very least, you needed one more. But I would prefer two. Two would be preferable. But that would have been so much better. But instead, it's just down to like 3. And mind you, this is probably what they had ordered for with Netflix. They probably didn't have any more ordered. And yeah, it's just a matter of, like, this is what they could do. But if this is what they had ordered from the beginning, then they should have made sure to pace it out just at least a little bit better. There's multiple reasons why it could have been, like, just rushed into at the end here, and I can't say what the actual reason is. I don't know. But this just feels like it was rushed into. The episode itself doesn't feel rushed exactly. It just feels like it just feels like it just started the finale out of nowhere, you know what I mean? Like, it just feels like like, we needed, again, some more build up to that. That's my problem. But like I said, the actual episode, in terms of its pacing, was fine. And the episode was still great. So now our ponies, because the Mare Stream died and the lantern is fading, which is probably not a good thing. We are riding basically into battle on the backs of the dragons. So that's fun. Also, Spike is Dragon Lord, which means at some point after the end of the series, Ember would have abdicated the throne to Spike, right? Because unless the point where Twilight, hid away all the magic and put Spike in hibernation, unless that happened a long, long time after, and Ember just, was done being ruler at that point, and Spike took over. Unless that's the case, like, I don't know. It's like pretty much every pony else that we knew in Friendship is Magic would be dead by that point. That would mean, because yeah, if this happened, like, within normal pony lifespans, it wouldn't make as much sense, I feel. it would feel weird that Ember would have the throne of Dragon Lord for such a short amount of time if that were the case. So I kind of feel like it had to be one of two things. Either Ember would have had to have just chosen to let go of the throne, which I could kind of see Ember doing, but I think she actually wanted to be Dragon Lord. I think she was actually cool with that. Um, or the other option being that Opaline's attempt at taking over back then was just so far after the events of Friendship is Magic that, like, literally the rest of the main six back then, for G4 were already dead. Twilight was the only character we knew from that period who was still alive, except maybe Flurry Heart or Cadence, or pretty much any Alicorn. Though who knows what happened to them? I mean, maybe they're in the Alicorn land. It's just like, there's so many questions that this brings up. And I think that my headcanon right now has to be that second option. And it's like I think Lauren Faust had said that Twilight wouldn't outlive her friends, but well, I think that probably would have had to have happened for any of this to make sense. And considering we know how long the lifespans were for Celestia and Luna and everything, it's like it would have had to have been the case. I think Twilight just did outlive her friends because of being an Alicorn now. And that it was a long time after they had already passed. By that point, like, Spike was still around because dragons live longer. And so all of that happened with Opaline after that fact. That's the only thing I can rationalize here. It's the only thing that really makes sense. Now, as for how long after is completely up in the air. It's just, it has to be long enough after Friendship is Magic for all of our other friends in the series to basically be dead. And I'm even including the CMCs and everything. And even like the Cake Twins. It's like that far into the future. Probably a couple hundred years at least. So I'm thinking that overall, since the end of Friendship is Magic to the beginning of, this generation, counting with the movie, it would have had to have been somewhere between 1 and 2,000 years. That is making the most sense to me with the information we're being given. Somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 years. Friendship is Magic Equestria is still seen as ancient Equestria by that point. And that lines up with kind of everything that we've heard. So that's the only thing I can think of that's got to be the case. I'm thinking maybe at least 1,500 years have passed since the end of Friendship is Magic. That's my view on it. But, I mean, I obviously can't necessarily say for sure because nothing is said for sure. And I think that's intentional. I think everyone working on this, all the writers and the showrunners and everyone, they didn't want to, like, give a very specific answer. Because I felt like, I feel like they probably felt that if they did, people would try to poke holes in it and like, oh, but then this couldn't be the case. So they tried to be a little more vague about it and be like, oh, here's little hints here and there about how long it's been. That's the only thing I can think of. But I'm willing to hear out your thoughts on that too. So tell me your thoughts on this episode and I guess on the timeline and stuff in the comments below. Let me know what you thought, and yeah, I'm very excited to get to more. The next two episodes are actually a two-parter, which makes sense. The last two actual, just regular episodes of Make Your Mark for Now. We might do those together, and if we do those together and then do the special on its own, I feel like that would actually line up perfectly with what I'm trying to do in terms of replacing this. Once we finish this and all is what I mean. I think that's going to work. It sucks that we're not going to have a lot of time with this series again here, but I think it's the best option for what we've got. Of course, that the next episodes, no matter what, won't be until the new year. So, for the time being, not only thank you so much for watching, but thank you so much for continuing to watch throughout 2023. I hope you've had as great of a time this year with the reactions as I have. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'll see y'all next year.